Okay. Yeah, we can start with the awards section. So David here is gonna promote the awards that we have at ASB. Anyone is free to ask questions. I also have some questions, so maybe we can start with that. And then we have Cecilia Manali, which is a postdoc, and Santi is gonna join us. That's another postdoc. He's from Harvard. And one other postdoc from Penn State that are gonna be the panelists, and they can answer questions related to what it's like being a postdoc, and what are the difference between being in grad school as a PhD student and then being a postdoc. So I'll leave you, David, to say whatever you need to say.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul, for letting me stop in. I'm not sure if it's possible for me to share a screen real quick with people. Oh, sorry, my Zoom is freaking out. It doesn't want to see windows. Maybe hopefully people see this. It looks like a warning sign on mine. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Freaking Zoom. Sorry. New computer. I need a. All right, I'm not gonna show. If let me see, maybe it works now. Oh, perfect. It works now. If I can get my screen back. Sorry. So for those who know me, I'm David Lips. I am the awards chair for ASB. Um, we have a lot of deadlines coming up, and I'm just stopping by to promote all the great awards that are coming up, because especially a lot of the student opportunities are going to be going on over the next 3 weeks. So this is for people in the room, and then please spread the word out to people in your ASB student chapters, people in your lab, people at your institution. I don't run the graduate student research grad. That's actually run by the education chair. I'm just going to put it out there that those are due tomorrow. And I believe those are like $2,500 or $3,000 for research for your PhD project. So it's a great opportunity just to get used to writing a grant, as well as gain some funds to help fund your thesis research. The abstracts for ASB are due on February 25th. I'm supposed to spread the word. There will be no extensions this year, no ifs, ands, or buts. It is due on February 25th. So don't be praying on 2 days before you're going to get an extension email. It's not happening this year. The window for us to evaluate abstracts, do all the award stuff, get people notifications in a timely manner in May. It's just impossible to do if this deadline pushes into March. So we've had to move it up as a society, and I expect it will kind of stay in this late February timeframe moving forward. For students, the things to be aware of is when you're submitting your abstract, it also asks you a variety of additional questions. It asks if you want to be considered for a student travel award. I highly recommend you say yes to that. And make sure that you pay your ASB dues by late March at the latest. So you'd be considered for that. You don't necessarily have to. I know if you're a new student member, it takes a few days to get through the system with the ASB secretary. Don't panic about that. Still just hit yes on that. We check the ASB, if you paid your ASB dues a little bit later after the deadline. So I highly recommend going through that process soon, though, and making sure they're paid by mid to late March. So definitely say yes to student travel awards. We give about 25 to 30 per year, and we do give a mix of merit and need-based awards. There'll also be some questions on there about the 3-minute thesis competition. So if you're kind of in your final year of your dissertation and you want to participate in the 3-minute thesis competition, just click yes there. We follow up about a week later with some additional details of things we need from you in order to determine who the finalists are for that competition. All of these, again, are done through the submission process. The last one's the journal award. We have the journal biomechanics and the clinical biomechanics award. It doesn't necessarily go to a doctoral student, but a lot of times in our society, doctoral students are the leads on these on these abstracts, and they're the ones who will be presenting at the meeting. Just so you know about those, you need to basically be under consideration for a podium, whether or not you say podium only or podium or poster. You need to say that you want to be considered for podium. If you just say poster only, we no longer consider those abstracts for a journal award because it does have a podium component to the presentation. The last one is the ASB Pre-Doctoral Award with this group. Just so you're aware, that is due on March 4th, though you have about another week or so to work on that. There is an additional narrative beyond the ASB abstract that we consider there. You also have to provide your CV. But we typically get anywhere from 15 to 20 students a year that apply for consideration of this award. And if you win this award, you get a pretty high profile talk at the upcoming meeting as well. Last thing to note is there is typically a diversity travel award. Those are typically due in May. So I don't have any details on that at this moment regarding what the deadline is for that. But be aware that there is still a plan to award those later on in the year. And that's my blurb. I see there's a question. I'm happy to answer any questions people have about any of these. Uh, so Hallie. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see. It's a very small
Hi.
there.
Yeah, my name is Elham, but I go with
Oh,
Ellie. So,
okay. Thank
thank you
you.
so much for the information. And I just have a question about the ASB Pre-Doctoral Award. So I know that like we need to submit a package with like a manuscript for that ASB abstract. So should we submit that manuscript to JOB before submitting the package, or it's like after um like if the person got like accepted, then they need to submit that to JOB?
Correct. So that would be afterwards. So if you do win that award, there is the opportunity to get a paper for that presentation in JOB, and they'll like put a nice little banner on it. This is an award-winning paper. But it does not need to be in submission at Journal of Biomechanics prior to submitting for this award. Most people are at the stage usually with an ASB abstract where they're ready to submit that paper immediately. So no, that is definitely an after the award type of situation.
Okay. And I also have a follow-up question on that. So that refers to the paper, the manuscript that is related to the abstract. But what if like because in the award says that you can have up to 5 manuscripts in your package. So how about those, like other manuscript? Is that okay if they are already submitted and they are under review?
Yes. So for the ASB pre-doctor award only, we do allow you to attach or not abstracts, full manuscripts of papers you have under review. So if that paper has not been submitted for review, then it'll get taken out of the packet. But as long as it's indicated that that paper is under a review at a journal, it can count towards the up to 5 manuscripts. You don't need to
Okay.
feel that you have to have 5 manuscripts. But you definitely want to have 1 or 2 for sure. But it is okay if those papers are in submission. They do not need to be accepted at that point when you submit your award packet.
Perfect. Thank you.
One more question that some students asked me was, is there any somewhere that people can find where is the kind of like the rubric or like some criteria for the awards, especially on the, yeah, on the predoctoral.
Pre-doctoral. So there should be a rubric. I'm trying to see if I can get out of my presentation real quick. Can I ever see my screen or did it go away?
We can still see it.
All right. So if you go to individual awards and you click on pre-doctoral award, the rubric is what we assess is these things here. And sorry, my type's probably really low. I'm trying to get to zoom in and I can't. But anyhow, if you look at a pre-doctoral award, there is a rubric there in terms of the factors that reviewers take into account. And whether or not these are largely equally weighted, I believe, for this award. I don't have the actual like rubric sheet in front of me at the moment, but I believe these are equally weighted. So we are looking at the nomination letter and the scientific achievements within that nomination letter, as well as the CV. We're looking at the quality of the current research and what your contribution was to those research. We are assessing the one abstract that you've submitted to the meeting. And then we are trying to assess what is the potential going forward in terms of this research. So Ellie, I'm happy to take another question from you.
Sorry, I just once I saw this, I just remember another question. How many nomination letter we can have? Like, is it only one or?
It should be one letter, but it can have multiple people who write and sign it.
Okay.
So if you have like if you're in a situation where you have like co-chairs on your dissertation and those are the people who are writing that letter, it is okay for that to be a co-signed letter. But we only accept one physical letter of nomination.
Okay, so it should be one letter, but it can have multiple signature.
Correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
All right. If not, feel free to reach out to me, ASB Awards at asbweb.org. Yes, ASB Awards at asbweb.org. Just double checking the email. So if you have any questions afterwards, please reach out to me. I'll also share a little blurb with Paul to blast out to everyone on that student listserv. And again, just want to encourage you to apply. If you don't apply, if you don't check yes for consideration, you will not win an award. I can guarantee you that. So whenever possible, opt in.
Thank you so much, David, for joining us and giving that information. I will share this then with everyone, so don't worry.
Perfect. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, that was awesome. I hope you guys enjoy that. Now we're gonna go with the postdoc. I had 3. One just canceled because he has a data collection. The other one, I don't know. But thank God we have Cecilia here. She's a postdoc actually, also in my lab. So at the Neuromechanics and Applied Locomotion Lab at the University of Utah, working with Peter Fino. So first I want to let Cecilia introduce herself. And anyone can ask her questions. If not, I will ask her some questions to give us some insight what it's like to be a postdoc. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sending this link to Sam, which is our other postdoc that just came out of data collection. Okay, so that he can join too, so that I'm not the only postdoc and we can give you.
Oh wait, I
more...
just saw Santiago join. So he's another
awesome.
postdoc. So we can have here. Great.
Hello.
2 postdocs. And I think Sam is joining too, or not?
Yeah, I sent him. Yes, I sent him the link.
Great.
So
we have postdocs. Yeah, I'll be recording this because I know a lot of students send me that they cannot join. So this will be then shared with all 400 ASB students. So yeah, but I will let each of you introduce yourself. You can say what is your research, how you got your postdoc, and then we're gonna let students ask you some questions, and if not, I will keep asking you questions, if that's okay. Okay, thank you so much. Now, Cecilia, you can go.
okay, I can start. Thank you, Paula. Okay. I don't know where to start. Okay, I'm Italian. I did my bachelor and master in Italy, and then I did my PhD together between Italy and Estonia in Northern Europe. And my PhD was on underwater biomechanics. So we use wearable sensors for gait analysis in water for rehab purposes. And I also did some other stuff during my PhD. But then I was about to finish my PhD and I didn't know what to do after. So I started to look around and I found the website of BioMechL and I found this application. I found the job opportunity here at Utah. So I applied and I got a postdoc with Peter Fino. And what I do now, I use wearables for concussion evaluations. We try to get objective metrics of balance and balance control from wearable devices.
Should I go?
I think that's all.
Yep. Thank you, Cecilia. Santi, now you can go.
Yeah. So my name is Santiago. I'm from Spain. I did my PhD at Temple University in Philly. I'm by training a mechanical engineer that has specialized more on robotics and control. During my PhD, I worked a lot with exoskeletons, so that's where I started getting a lot more into biomechanics and neuromotor control. So during my PhD, I studied a lot like how people interact with wearable robots and trying to understand this interaction. My interest was still pretty much in control and robotics, even though I love the human part. And when I graduated, I wanted to go into industry. It was a pretty hard time for industry jobs, especially like in jobs like Boston Dynamics or things like this. They were barely hiring anyone. It was a pretty competitive landscape. So, and then the other issue was like there's not really a path for companies working on exoskeletons, right? It was very hard to get a job. Like there's a few startups with very few people. It's very hard to sell these devices. So I really wanted to try to work towards getting these devices to the hands of people. Like what's really missing between what we understand in the research lab to getting things that work in the real world. So there's this lab at Harvard, and the PI is Connor Walsh, that is really focused in translation and trying to bridge that gap. He's also very interested in companies launching out of his lab. So I thought it was a perfect match for me because it would allow me to work more on the translational aspect and with the potential of like one day launching a start from the lab. So that's what I'm doing now. We're working on developing wearable robotic solutions for stroke rehabilitation and assistance. So that's the summary.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you for that, Santi. Sam, can you introduce yourself now?
Sure. So, hello everybody. I'm Sam. My background's a little bit different. My background is actually psychology. So I did my PhD between the University of Bath and the University of Bristol. I focused on human factors, and we worked with a company called BT. So BT is kind of like Verizon or AT&T in America. They like own the internet infrastructure in the UK, and so they were interested in how latency in technology affects motor control. So I specifically looked at adaptation to latency in various technologies, mainly mouse-based technologies like video games, but we also looked at driving simulator research. And so my particular interest was how the brain processes sensory feedback to guide action. And when I decided to do my postdoc, I applied at Peter's lab, same as Cecilia, and I'm working on a project which basically looks at how concussions affect your ability to integrate different sensory feedback, particularly for walking and navigation. So we look at how people with concussion control their balance when we give them varying levels of sensory feedback, such as visual feedback, whether we wash out self-motion feedback. And yeah, that's what I'm working on currently.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that. So you know a little bit about all of them. Is there any question from students here to any of the three postdocs? Okay, no questions. If not, I'm gonna go first. These are some questions that I got from students before this. One was, what do you think what is the difference between being how do you feel from when you were a PhD student versus a postdoc? Do you feel you know more, how people treat you, like could be anything, in terms of differences between PhD and postdoc?
Anyone can answer?
You can go first.
Okay.
The three of you are gonna answer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Mind. But now that you're talking, Cynthia, if you don't mind giving your answer to that'd be great.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, in some ways it feels like you know more. In other ways, you feel like you know less. You know, like when you know more, you start to understand what you don't know. I feel like you get a little of that in terms of like the role. I mean, I definitely enjoy more, I think now, because in the PhD you have all that pressure of like, I need X amount of papers to graduate, right? So I don't feel so much that pressure now, and I feel like I take a bit of a different role where I can be more of a mentor for some people, collaborate in more projects without taking the lead in the technical aspect. So that's super fun. So I don't know, I mean, I'm really enjoying it.
So
I totally, sorry.
overall, you would say better experience as a postdoc than PhD for Cynthia, at least.
It's a different experience. I mean, I think you learn different things along the way of both paths, but yeah, I think I'm enjoying more now. It's also a much bigger lab with many different things going on. So like I have the opportunity to participate in many things.
That's great. Cecilia, what do you think?
I totally agree with you, Santiago. I think it depends on a daily basis, whether it's I feel that I know more or that I feel that I know less. In my case, I changed completely, and I think also Sam, we changed completely from the PhD. I did biomedical engineering, which is kind of similar, but the structure of the university in Europe is completely different. How the relationship with PIs and how the relationship within a lab is settled is completely different. So I had to learn all of it from zero. And after a PhD, I think that you know a lot of your very tiny project and your very niche topic. And then you jump into a postdoc, and now I'm on different projects that are kind of different from what I did during my PhD. So I feel that I know less. I reached to the end of my PhD that I knew a lot about what I was doing, and then I had to restart everything. So it highly depends on the day. And then, yeah, I agree. You don't feel the pressure anymore of having to publish that amount of papers, of having classes or deadlines that are very strict for during the PhD. You still have stuff to do, but you can take a bit more time to maybe understand them better or dive into a bit more. That's my experience, I would say.
Good, great point. Thank you. Sam, would you agree with both of them?
The background for me is a little bit different. In the UK, you don't actually need to publish. So I finished my PhD without anything published. So that pressure is a little bit different. We also don't have classes. But in terms of like suddenly knowing everything about a specific field to not knowing as much, I actually felt that I realized I knew more than I thought after doing my PhD, because I was able to take things from what I'd learned in a really specific field and apply them to completely different areas. And so, that's allowed me to do some new things and work on some new projects. And that's specifically what I enjoy the most about a postdoc. I've gone from doing everything on my own project to parts on lots of projects. So whether that's some programming on one project or giving guidance to somebody on another project, using some knowledge I already have. You're helping on lots of different projects in a smaller way. Of course, you have your personal main projects, but I think that's the thing I've enjoyed the most, is that I feel I'm doing more work on a larger variety of projects. And for me, that's what I enjoy more. So yeah, I would say I enjoyed my postdoc more than I enjoyed my PhD, but I love my PhD as well.
Okay, that's good. That's encouraging. We have a question from Millie. What skills can you gain in a postdoctoral position that remain valuable even if you plan to transition out of academia for your future career? is in the group chat. If nobody understood what I said.
I think, yeah, that depends on, I think, many things. Like in my case, yeah, it really depends on, like, are you doing more engineering work, more technical work, you're getting better at maybe more of the project management stuff, like trying to understand a device from like basically all its pieces, and trying to manage, like in this lab, there's many people that do different components of things, right? There's staff engineers. So like those skills, for example, you would gain them here, but like it really depends on where you are. I say that, like, if you're in a lab that is building something more in the translational side, I think you always have the opportunity to try to commercialize things that are tough tech, very hard to develop. And that's also like why you have like investors and other people coming to universities, because it's stuff that is very expensive and can only be funded initially through government grants. So it's a great opportunity to try to get involved in something like that if that's what you want to do.
I agree. It highly depends on where you go. And in my case, I think the multitasking on different projects and at different stages, and being able to, as Sam said, to translate whatever you learn in one side, to translate it and apply it to the other. I think that's the thing that I'm learning the most during my PhD. So try to put those things together, and you get a lot of project management skills that I didn't have during my PhD personally, because I had my own project and I had just to deal with that. But now having multiple projects and having to follow them at different stages, so having to apply to the IRBs or just recruiting and organizing that, I think that's something that is highly translatable outside of academia, because yeah, and also writing grants and writing in general, it's something that now I think is asked also outside academia alone.
Yeah, I don't have a huge amount to add on top of that. I would say the independence of it as well is something that's has been another big jump for me. I worked quite close to my supervisor in my PhD, and I always had like weekly goals of things I needed to do. Whereas now I kind of just have to work out. Well, no, I just have to work out, but I'm more independent on what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that independence has, develops some critical thinking skills. It's encouraged me to learn completely new things, like this, new analysis, new methods of analysis I've learned. I haven't been doing my PhD as long as, my postdoc as long as other people, so I probably can't give that advice as well as the others can. But yeah, I definitely feel like I've picked up new skills very quickly in my postdoc, and I feel like I picked them up at a faster rate than I did in my PhD, just because I've got that independence and I'm, working on a wider variety of things.
That was great. Great question. Anyone else has a question for postdocs here?
So I know we heard one person mention that they were kind of leaning towards industry, but didn't go that route because there's not really a clear-cut path in that field. How do you guys, or maybe a better question is, do you know many people that are in industry now and what their thoughts are on that and how that compares to your experience?
I think that was me, no? Yeah, I think, and one of the things I realized, right, is like when you do a PhD, a lot of these things that you can do for a PhD are very meaningful in terms of science, academia, learning, understanding. But from that to something that is commercially ready to be sold to people, there's like a stretch. So that trying to find the job that matches your skill set perfectly is quite hard. Like, so in my case, my issue was that I wanted to work on controls for like bipedal robots or quadrupeds, but really my expertise was in exoskeletons. So there were people that actually did a PhD specifically in those other things. So there's not that many jobs available. So they're basically hiring the people that all their expertise is in that specific area. So I think it's hard. And again, it really depends on what you want to do and to what level of technical job you want to go into.
Thank you. Anyone? That's a good question too. Anyone has another question? No, I have one. That I also got from the students. How do postdocs navigate challenges related to funding constraints? Or do you ever experience that? Or you feel like once you get in a postdoc, it's because you usually have funding secure and you don't need to worry about that until like in 2 years or the amount of time that your contract is for?
Okay, I can take the lead on this one. It's especially hot topic at the moment with everything that is happening with the funding. My experience is that I've been hired with already funding, and since I'm not American, I cannot. There is only a limited amount of postdoctoral funding I can apply to. I'm also, yeah, and I've been. Sorry, I'm trying to put thoughts in a line. It's very dependent on what you want to do and where you want to go and the funding that you can apply to. The only funding that I can apply to and send to is the K-99, which is the only postdoctoral funding from NIH, or look for private funding. Personally, I didn't apply yet to any of these because I know I have enough funding to support me until the end of my 2 years PhD, my 2-year postdoc here. But then it depends on your PI and your funding availabilities and on the projects you've been hired to. Sorry, I know that's not the greatest answer.
No, that was a good answer. I think that's a valid answer. Maybe not, I'll change a bit the question. I know Santi mentioned that kind of like his goal is then to translate what he's doing with his postdoc to industry, maybe doing a startup. Is that correct?
Mhm.
But for how do you think like this step, like from postdoc to your next step? Do you want to share what you can do with a postdoc after? Like you can talk a little bit more in like industry related, but like how you think like doing a postdoc can help you to reach your end goal career, like your dream job career.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, basically what happens here, there's, I think we're like 60, 70 people in the lab. So there's like multiple projects and you have the PI at the highest level. And then like there's different postdocs that manage each of those projects. So when you enter the lab, basically you are assigned to one of the projects as the lead. So basically I'm the technical lead of my project, and that gives me the opportunity to make progress in my projects towards translation and start to explore the commercial potential and talk to investors and stuff. And I think like at least here, like there's a lot of people that try to come into labs, get involved, because there is commercial potential in many things that happen across labs, right? So and I think it's a very good place to be like at the beginning of the commercial path of this thing. So if you're very interested in startups or like developing technology, it's like a great place to be. So if that's the role of a postdoc or another role, I don't know. In my case, it was really helpful because it's like completely aligned with my expertise. So I think I can bring something to the team, and there's a lot of other people that have their own skill set, and I think it's a great.
Yeah, That's awesome. Sam or Cecilia, do you want to share how a postdoc can help you on like your next career step?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit. So in human factors research, most of the industry jobs would be at places like Meta, HTC, places making like virtual reality headsets and immersive technologies. As you can imagine, they're really competitive. I personally want to stay in academics, but I think a postdoc is a really good idea if you want to then apply for a job in those fields. It's a way to set you apart, and it's a way to, as I said earlier, do a wider range of research, lead some research, come up with some ideas of your own. So if you did want to go into industry and that sort of field, in my sort of field, I think I think a postdoc's a really, really good idea. Just to widen your skills and show that sort of next level of learning and your publications.
So you would say you have more freedom to choose your project, because I thought sometimes during a PhD, even though you can have a PI that allows for freedom and what you can choose, it's probably a bit more constricted. You feeling like in a postdoc you can show that you are applying your ideas more?
Yeah, definitely. My PhD had like a clear sort of specific field. I had a bit of freedom in that field, but I couldn't change to do, something that I was just super interested in. And our supervisor, lab coordinator, I think he's great at pushing you to do your own independent work. If you want to apply for a grant, great. Not all research requires a grant. And so some of the ideas I've pitched don't. So yeah, I think I personally have more independence now to sort of do what I'm interested in, but you also have to, do the whole process from the start. You have to get your proposal ready, and all of that other stuff. I feel like it's not already set up like it was at the start of my PhD.
Great. Okay, we have a question. Do you suggest a short-term postdoc, like a year, or a long-term, like 5 years? Anyone can reply to this.
I think it's a little tricky. I mean, I definitely, like, what I've heard is usually that if you stay for very long in a postdoc, it's not seen as something positive, neither for an academic position or for industry. I don't know, but I know some people here that just want to do 1 year, try to get a few publications, and during that year just apply for academic positions, just because you need like something to do basically in the time, because applying for academic positions takes long and you have to wait for the next how do you call it, the next period and all of this. I mean, probably some can talk more about this, but yeah, that's what I've understood about it. Yeah.
I agree with you. It highly depends on your goals, and I would say that it also depends on the project and the group you've been hired to work in for the postdoc. For example, I feel that in 1 year, I wouldn't have accomplished anything. I've been here a year and a half, and the projects I've been in started the day I started here, and we actually started collecting subjects like experimental data in summer. So up to now, we have 10 participants enrolled to this very long longitudinal study. So I don't have any data of the actual project I've been hired to work in. So in 1 year, and if you have only one project, it's very hard to publish something. So I would say 2, 3 years, but then it depends. Again, I agree. If you want to apply to academic positions, that's a very nice buffer, let's say 1 year time. It depends on what you want to do and what type of skills you feel that the postdoc should be filling in. In my case, it was a clinical data, like clinical experience, because I didn't have any clinical experience on collecting data on participants on actual patients and neurological problem. So I feel that the postdoc is filling up those gaps in my knowledge, and yeah, I don't think there is a strict length that the postdoc should be. That's my answer.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I think it's more important to know what you want out of your postdoc, and then when you feel that you've accomplished that, then maybe consider moving on. You know, as Cecilia said, timeframes completely vary between different projects. Like Cecilia, mine had like 3 participants when I first started, and we probably won't finish data collection until about a year, maybe more. You know, personally, in sort of visual motor control, what I study, you have your psychology side and you have your biomechanics side, and I will feel comfortable moving on when I'm equally comfortable with both of those sides. And that's sort of the main aim for me out of my postdoc. Of course, to get some publications under my belt as well. But I think those things go hand in hand. So I would say if it takes you a little bit longer to achieve your goals, absolutely fine. If you know you just want to get a year out of the way, get some publications and move on, that's also great.
Thank you so much, three of you. Anyone else have any final questions? No? Okay. Okay, we can leave or postdocs a little bit more free time then. Thank you so much, Santi, Sam, and Leah for
Paula,
joining.
sorry. I just wanted to thank you for organizing this and for taking the time to organize this. It's really, really interesting and valuable. And I hope we gave our perspective. And if anyone wants to contact us, I think we're more than happy to answer any question you may have.
Yeah, I do want to ask one more question to each of you. Just if you have any tips for students, like this is going to be then sent to a lot of students, and if there's any insight that you can give from what you learned from doing a PhD and now being a postdoc, if you were gonna give yourself an advice like your first year of your PhD, what would that be?
My takeaway from my academic career so far is don't be afraid of say I don't know and ask questions. And yeah, that's my advice. Ask questions and don't be afraid to say I don't know, and then dive into the knowledge and try to fill those lacks.
Yeah, it's similar sentiment from me. I would say read a lot, find out what you're interested in, and also just try lots of different things. You know, if you want to get more into, say, the programming side of something, or if you're, you know, or you find that you really enjoy the writing side of it, look at doing book chapters, things like that. Just read and just learn as much as you can about the things that interest you. And also 2, 3, 4 years down the line, when somebody's talking about something, if you've randomly read a paper that's on that, you'll be, you know, equipped to talk about it, and you'll develop a very strong base of knowledge about a good variety of things very, very quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those. Read a lot, ask a lot of questions, be curious. Now that at the end, I think it's why you do a PhD, right? It's you're curious about something, you want answers, and like by the end of the PhD, you'll have your own questions, and that's, I think, so very, very satisfying to a certain extent. Then I think, I mean, it's very hard, but to a certain extent, if you can like have some idea what you want to do after, right? And I think someone mentioned this earlier. Sometimes your PI wants you to do something, right? But you may see yourself after the entire PhD and you've done what your PI wanted, and then it's a little hard to follow the direction that you had in mind. So it's important to keep in mind those things and try to take some steps along the way that will make your case easier for whatever you want to do, either academia or industry or whatever it is. That's why. But
Thank you. Yeah, those are great advices. I think like really think what you're doing a PhD and what you want to do after. I think it's good to start thinking about that early on. Anyway, thank you so much everyone who joined and the three of you for your time. Yeah, I really appreciate it. If anyone has a question, feel free to ask, but if not, I will let you free. Bye.
Thank you, Paula. Bye-bye.
thank you, Paula, for organizing.
Yeah, thank you, Santi, for joining. Happy birthday. It's your birthday,
Thank
right?
you.
Oh, happy
Yesterday.
birthday.
Thanks,
Happy
thanks.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
This is how I celebrate.
Yes, thank you. And on Valentine's Day. We fight
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.